Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Where Does It Come From podcast. This episode, we're actually on the road, or I should say, technically on the sea, because we're talking with Mike Keane, who is in the middle of an intrepid adventure canoeing around Greenland. But I'm not going to tell you about it. I'm going to let Mike tell you about it. So, welcome, Mike.
Thank you. Glad to be on your lovely podcast.
The pleasure to have you. Tell us all about yourself and what on earth made you canoe around Greenland.
Right, I am, as you say, Mike Keane. I'm from Suffolk, over in England. What a lovely place it is. And I started kayaking a 3,000 kilometer solo trip from Qaqortoq, right in the south of Greenland, to Qaanaaq in the north, about I think 39, 40 days ago now. So over a month I've been on the water, and it's been eventful to say the least so far. So I'm doing it for kind of two or three reasons really. It's the overall thing is for climate change. Greenland's obviously the poster boy of climate change at the moment, with the retreating glaciers, ice cap, and you can really see why, because it's so starkly different to how it has been in the previous years, and everything here is so extreme that there's a big difference between like I say, between what's happened before and what's happening now, and it really is affecting people. Pollution as well is a big thing. So there's two kind of actual scientific kind of aspects to the trip as well. Firstly, I'm collecting sea mammal poo, and there's a lot of poo involved in this trip. Sea mammal poo for three different scientific organizations. I'm trying to go for 10 or 12 different samples spread up the whole coast, and they will be checked for microplastic pollution. So I'm going for seal, walrus, or polar bear poo, and because they give you a whole range of the ocean from the top to the bottom. So that's pretty important to see where the danger areas are for the plastic pollution. But also, and the one that kind of ticks my box as a chef, is I'm only eating a Greenlandic diet. So only food that can be foraged or hunted in Greenland, and traditionally as well, like ancestral. Not, lamb was introduced here about 100 years ago, but I'm not eating lamb. Just sticking to, land mammals would be muskox and reindeer. And sea mammals, loads of them, from whale to porpoise to seal, to fish as well, loads of different fish. So the variety is amazing. But I said before that the stark reality of having to live out here is just something else. When if you read it or look at it on the telly, you go, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. I could probably do it. But you get out here and it's, oh my word, just it's bitingly cold, freezing, and the last thing you want to do is muck about with food. Purely a functional thing. There's nothing pretty about it at all. You just got to get it and cook it as quickly as you can, using as little energy as you can, and get it down you, and then hide away in your tent.
But it's back to basics. I mean, literally, isn't it? Because you're looking at food as a nutrition to feed your engine to keep you
absolutely,
not about anything else.
We've evolved with the foods that have grown up in our environment. So Greenlanders with the Greenlandic food, English with whatever is within, I don't know, 10-mile radius of what we are for 200,000 or 300,000 years. And it's only in the last less than 100 years, a couple of generations, that we've totally flipped that on its head, and we're now flying stuff all over the world, using fossil fuels to get it there, stuff that is out of season, and it's not necessary. 99.9% of it is not necessary. It's not like everyone's going to die if we can't get strawberries in the middle of winter in England, and because it's become such a money based global food system, and everything revolves around the bottom line. We're just damaging our health and the environment as we're doing it. It's crazy. But it took me quite a few years as a chef to kind of start looking into that, and the commonsensicalness of it, of like, guys, it makes total sense that we've evolved with the food for 200,000 years, and we've totally changed that, and pumping chemicals in it, antibiotics, fertilizers in the grounds, it's all going into the water system. And then lo and behold, diseases, cancers, obesity, diabetes, allergies, autoimmune systems are shot. And it's 100% down to the food we're eating. So I'm doing the food side of this is sending samples of my own poo back to Nuke, and that goes to various other microbiologists, and they will be analysing the bacteria in it, measuring it up against the food that I'm eating, seeing how it affects the bacteria and my gut microbiome, back from when I was eating my kind of traditional English diet, as well. So it's going to be really interesting just to see how that lot has affected my gut. I'm taking tests for like mental well-being and acuity and just general how I'm feeling. And before I left for Greenland, the last day I went to St Thomas with Tim Spector, and he and his team did a whole bunch of tests on me. So weight, blood, urine stool. They did a DEXA scan, which measures bone density, fat to muscle ratio. Yeah, loads of stuff. So that's going to be pretty interesting as well. So I know I've already lost about 12 kilo.
Wow.
Yeah, within the first 4 weeks of the diet, I'd lost that much,
Goodness.
which is great. But it was kind of worrying, thinking, oh, okay, that must be my body using up all my fat reserves,
Yeah.
because I'm just eating this, pretty much 100% protein and fat diet. So I haven't had fiber. Well, virtually no fiber. I've had no fruit, no vegetables. It's all meat, of which almost 50% of it is fat.
Mm.
So seal is the big one out here, and I'm eating great chunks of seal fat, which luckily is really nice. It's like a really nice speck or lardo. It's got a really low melting point, so you pop it in your mouth and it just melts really really quickly. Which might be a bit too much detail, but
Well,
it is really
you're
good.
probably also really hungry, aren't you? So when you're hungry, it's amazing how much food tastes better when you're hungry.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's yeah, it's been a really interesting journey actually, because going back to the poo thing, I was regularly twice a day or something like that, and when I went on the diet, the first couple of weeks were a nightmare. But yeah, I felt fine, but the my toilet wouldn't agree with me. And
No,
then
but any change is good. But yeah, I'm quite interested in all of that. You know, I know I don't want to get obsessive about poo, but
yeah,
what I work on is obviously sustainable fabrics and fibers, and we're very much about trying to encourage people to connect with things a bit more from cradle to grave, so the whole
yeah,
life cycles of things. So when you're buying a t-shirt, say, you don't just think, is this a nice color? You sort of think, who farmed this cotton? How did they farm it? What pesticides went on it? How were they treated? All of that kind of stuff. And it's trying to get people to think, and it is going back in time. It's heritage thinking, isn't it? It's about
yeah,
what is the impact of my diet? What is the impact of putting plastics in the planet that's going to go widely into seals, polar bears, and walruses poo? It's
yeah.
trying to get people to think, and we've been so encouraged to think about things on a surface level and not ask the questions about impacts. And so I think what you're doing is it's scientific on so many levels, because it's looking at the impacts on you and your health and your poo, and also the impacts on the planet of what we as humanity have been doing to the planet. So it sounds amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And yeah, I'm no scientist by any stretch, but being a chef and having kind of gone through my career, always looking at the kind of environmental health concerns, and is it in temperature? Has it got a proper label on it? If it's a day past its sell by, you got to throw it away. And you start thinking, hang on, we haven't lived like this for hardly any of our evolution as we've progressed. And why are we suddenly doing it now? I remember back in Suffolk, I was trying to get approval from the EHO to make salami, and I couldn't do it. They wouldn't let me do it because it didn't tick the right boxes. So hang on, we've been curing meat for centuries, for millennia, and we're not allowed to do it now. It goes totally against nature. It's bonkers, and we've grown up. We've evolved with all these bacteria, and then again in the last couple of generations, we're kill all the bacteria. Bacteria is terrible, but it's not. That's who we are.
Yeah.
And evolve with that. And humans evolve so slowly. There's no way we can evolve to keep up with all the crap that we're putting in our bodies.
And we're learning now. We're seeing
Yeah,
the effects of it. I mean, it's like as a mum, you know, we're always told, let your kids play in the dirt, you know, let them eat dirt. It's good for them, rather than
yeah,
keeping everything sterile and clean, you know.
yeah. It's it is really fascinating, and that and the knock on from the food system is the health system. Every country is in a health crisis because of all these problems,
Yeah.
and every country pretty much looks at it same as we do in England. You go to the doctor or hospital when there's a problem, which is too late. We should be addressing it with the kids and educating kids, well, and grown-ups as we go about, is it natural? Do we need to fly stuff from all the way from Mexico to Madrid and then on to London and then to its all various other food hubs to eat, or should we be concentrating on the local stuff? And it is really difficult. I'm not saying I don't use plastic or I wouldn't eat a lemon again or anything like that, because that's not the modern world, and it's really difficult to do that. But there is definitely a middle ground and a good
Yeah.
compromise to be had.
Yeah,
By
balance.
looking to, is it organic? Where is it produced? And it's so difficult. Something you might think would be ticks all the boxes and it's fantastic, and you look into it and you realize that you've just cleared 100,000 acres to grow it, or to grow the palm oil, or to grow the food that feeds the animal for that. It's just
But it's the waste. It's the
really
waste as
frustrating.
well, isn't it? What frustrates me is the huge amounts of waste, because the economic model that we have is all about production, consumption. If a person wants it, they should be able to get it, and they should be able to get it as cheaply as possible. But actually, it ends up with too much being produced and then loads being wasted. We don't seem to have this thing of when is enough. When do we have enough? Or saying to people, you can't have that. It's too hard. You just can't have it.
Yeah. The example I always do is apples in like a supermarket. Yeah, you go in there, and England's got everywhere you look, there's orchards, and you go in there and there's like 12, 15 different types of apple. But if you look closely, there's maybe one or two from England, and there's loads from like New Zealand or South Africa. It's like, come on, don't tell us it's the consumer who want that. No, it's not. It's the bottom line, and that is the excuse we continue giving. Oh, the consumer wants it, so they've got to have it. Oh, we haven't had it for hundreds of thousands of years. We're not all going to go rioting because we can't get a sweeter apple.
Tomatoes maybe, but not apples. Toilet paper maybe, but not apples. No, it's the same with clothing. A couple of my friends dragged me into some horrible fast fashion outlets, I won't name any names, the other week, just because they wanted me to see how the other half lived. And one of them, I was like, oh, they've actually got some linen here. This is quite interesting. I'll have a look at that. And I was feeling a little bit like barely positive. And I looked at the label, it was made in Thailand. And I thought, what the, we grow linen in Europe, in Ireland, in England. Why on earth are we importing it from Thailand? Well, we know why, don't we? Because it's cheap. Slave labor. But yes, so it sounds amazing. So anybody watching this on the video, which is on YouTube, can see Mike's background, and you can see snow on the ground, and you can see beautiful houses and the beautiful sky there. How cold actually is it, Mike?
It's about -2 at the moment,
right?
Which is okay. And whether it's climate change or not, it's been an amazingly unseasonable year so far. Everyone's saying they can't believe it's still so cold. The weather has been atrocious the whole way up so far. I've been stuck in a tent for 3 days, as of yesterday, with a howling gale, and it lifted the kayak up and chucked it through the tent, and the tent got all smashed up. It was miserable. It really was. So I need to buy a new tent.
No, that's
yes.
I was seeing some of your videos last week that you were staying on remote islands where people now didn't live, and there were schools and churches and things that basically just been abandoned. Why would that be?
A lot of it. Well, there's many reasons. Sometimes it's because fish is such a big industry here. If the fish move or they dry up in a particular fjord, then that totally straight away wipes out a settlement. It's incredible. But also the Danish being the kind of colonizing power, which is another whole issue, had a policy to move people into the bigger settlements, so it wasn't so spread out, and that is a big reason for it as well. That there's a coal mine settlement up in Disco Bay that the coal dried up, or they decided not to mine the coal anymore, so that dried up. So there are a whole bunch of different reasons, mostly economic. Again, down to the old money front.
Yeah, it looks stunningly beautiful where you are. So tell us a little bit about your journey so far then. So you've been going for, what was it, 40 something days? What have you been doing in that time?
Well, most of it has been camping. I try and I'm trying to average 30 kilometers a day in the kayak, which is about, depending on the wind and the weather, can be anywhere between 4 hours and 9 hours. So it's a huge variable there. So probably 8 times out of 10 I've been camping, and then the rest of the time's either been in an abandoned settlement or in a settlement like this.
Gorgeous.
So the Greenlanders, there's only 57,000 people in the country. The whole of Greenland population could fit in Wembley. It's amazing. And the distance I'm kayaking is from London to Algiers.
Wow.
So it's bigger than Europe. And there's so few people, but they've been unbelievably welcoming. I've been on Greenland National Telly, but 3 or 4 times now, and Facebook Facebook and the other socials are massive. Are massively used here. Mainly because everything's so spread out, and they've got great Wi-Fi or connection in each settlement. So it's a really important tool of communication for them, and they've been spreading about. So, and on my website you can see a live tracker, so you know where I am. So a lot of people have been looking at that, and then when I get to the quayside in a lot of settlements, there can be anywhere between like 20 and 100 people there just waiting for me to appear around the corner.
Oh, that's so nice. That's lovely. Well, I was actually going to say, if anybody wants to follow Mike, go to the website. It's Mike Keane Cooks, isn't it?
Keane.co. MikeKeane.co.
MikeKeane.co, and then you're Mike Keane Cooks on Instagram, aren't you?
Keane Cooks on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
Yeah. I'll put the links on the blurb with the podcast so people can see where you are on any given day. No, it's absolutely amazing. So it's a very scientific trip. So you've got your animal poo testing for microplastics, which organisations are involved in that from the scientific side?
British Antarctic Survey are the main one in Cambridge, and there's 3 others. All have got like big long acronyms which I can't remember.
Don't worry. No, I'm putting
all using the data.
I'm really eager to find out what the results are, because when I give a lot of presentations which tend to be about microplastics from clothing, with the examples that I give for where microplastics have been found are like bottom of the Mariana Trench, top of Mount Everest. So it'd be quite interesting to say in walrus poo and polar bear poo in that as well.
Yeah, and they're finding it now in fresh snow on the ice cap. And one of the things they're looking at actually is to see if the concentration of microplastic increases the closer I get to glaciers that spit into the sea, just to see if there's a larger amount proportionally coming in via the air on top of the ice cap and going out for the glacial melt. So that would be quite interesting as well. So hopefully we'll get enough data to look.
And what have you seen in terms of plastic waste as you've been kayaking, canoeing along? Have you seen plastic in the sea that it's visible?
Not in the sea. I've seen loads of fishing gear. I haven't seen plastic bottles or shopping bags or anything like that, but fishing gear is everywhere. There's thousands, countless islands you pass, and a lot of them unfortunately do have fishing gear. It's always kind of brightly coloured, or it's got a buoy attached to it, so you can see. And it's not necessarily local fishermen. It can be stuff that's coming from the big ships, out in the ocean. But there is a lot. And speaking to a lot, and the Greenlanders are very much aware of climate change and the environment now as well. A lot of that has come from the international attention, but they do have projects here where they go out, the fishermen go out and they pick up fishing waste. And I've spoken to 3 separate fishermen in different settlements, and they're all astounded at how much they actually picked up. They thought they'd get it all in the boat, but no, they couldn't get it in there, and you can't do much with it. And there are projects that convert it into furniture and building materials. They press it, but again, it's picked up in Greenland, it's sent to Germany, it's turned, and then it's sent back. So it's great, but there's obviously big drawbacks in the processing of it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. And it's so you're just so remote where you are. That's the thing, isn't it? It's trying to be connected to other things that are going on in the world
yeah,
and say these projects. But in general, not just Greenland, there is that lack of interconnectedness in general, isn't there? Where you've got things shipping all over the world to change things. Whereas in fact, if we
yeah.
put our heads together, we could do it much more locally, couldn't we?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like all the, another one that I try not to be too grinchy about is like Christmas, and the adverts are absolute garbage on the telly, stuff that breaks within half an hour and then just gets forgotten about and binned.
Yeah.
Just don't buy it. Just
Yeah.
buy a wooden something that someone local's made from a sustainable wood.
Yeah.
It will last longer and it's better. It'll make you feel better. But all this stuff that is just you just see on the in the kids' TV, it's just, oh my god! It just, it gets me quite angry.
No, me too, definitely. And I come at it from the textiles point of view, and
Yeah,
the impact of the amount of polyester in clothes, the microplastics that's been washed out of them, the fact that they're shoddily made, and that they're not going to last, they're not meant to last for more than 1 or 2 wears, so that you'll go out and buy some more, and then they tell you
yeah.
you'll feel better for buying it, and you don't, and it's just a load of nonsense. So I completely agree with you what you're saying, Mike. So going back to the food thing then, because I'm kind of fascinated. So as a chef, what has been your favorite meal that you've had on your trip so far?
Eggs, seagull eggs.
Yeah, I
But
saw that on
there's
Instagram.
so many tiny islands, and you can spot when there's a seagull, on the nest, because they don't fly away straight away. And with the kayak and a lot of the islands, you can just coast up and then hop out and you get up there, and you can pick up seagull eggs, and they're big. They're almost goose size eggs, some of them. And you they're so lovely. They're really good. I've been boiling them sometimes. When I've been in settlement, I boil them. If I'm camping, I just mash it into a pan, cook it scrambled egg style as fast as I can. But they're so rich, and they're almost orange when you make a scrambled egg out of them. But that's really satisfying when you're in a kayak and you go and get your own egg, and then you cook it later. That's really satisfying. Seal fat is surprisingly nice. It's best frozen, and in the south they do a fermented seal fat, which tastes like the strongest cheese you've ever tasted. It's like, which is kind of wrong when you're eating it. Oh, that's interesting. But the fermentation process actually turns something in the fat into vitamin C. So hence I haven't died of scurvy yet. Touch wood.
Yeah, you're looking pretty healthy there, which is a pretty good thing.
Amazing. The some days I've been kayaking for 8 to 10 hours, and I'm 53. I'm no spring chicken anymore. But there's no way I could have been doing that kind of endurance on my previous diet. Absolutely no way. I'd have been 5 hours maximum. I'd have been absolutely wiped out. But I've been doing it day in, day out. And it's not tooting my own horn. I think it is just down to the diet, and I think that's how they survived in this environment for so long, for thousands of years. And it is miserable. When you're here in the, and I've got like GPS and a sat phone and a locator beacon if it all goes wrong. Got modern clothing, probably all made out of plastic. But how they survived hundreds of years ago is like, oh my word. Like, I was in that storm, I was thinking, another couple of days and I'd be dead.
Nice. Have you ever been to Ipswich Museum? I don't know how close you are to Ipswich.
Yeah.
Because I know there was an old Inuit canoe there, isn't there? I think and it was all lined with I think it was seal skin or something like that. Someone will correct me now, but I remember being fascinated by that they would use the local things to make things to assist in their life. We have all these wonderful gadgets and plastics and things like that because we've evolved it because we need to, I suppose. But it is fascinating when you look back and you see how people did survive, and as you say, so lonely and disconnected as well.
And when it's miserable like that, you can see how quickly you can die just on a knife edge that your existence is, because storm like that for 5 days and you're trying to feed a family. That's why they've got so much dried food out here, dried cod, dried seal, whale, everything, just because if it's stormy, there's no way you're getting anything fresh. And go back to the kayaks, there's no trees. Trees don't grow here. There's no iron. They can't make nails or anything. So all the kayaks are made out of driftwood. or the old ones anyway, driftwood that's come across from Labrador and Newfoundland in America, and the skins are all made, it's a seal skin, and there's no compartments, and it's not sturdy, again, plastic one like I've got. If you get a bit of ice that goes through that, you're dead. There's no survive. And I've got a spray deck that stops the water getting in the cockpit, but they used to sew themselves into the kayak so that they literally sew the skin in so the water doesn't get in. It's like, you've got to be a pretty confident kayaker to be able to do that.
Definitely. But then the idea of getting wet and cold was probably just so, that would also be a life changer, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, 90 seconds and you'll be dead. If not at 90 seconds of hypothermia afterwards. And if you're a kilometre out from the coast hunting a narwhal or seal, there's no way you're just going to die. It really is that black and white. There's no question about it. And to actually have to go out and harpoon a seal from a kayak. I mean, I see seals every day in the kayak, but they're like, there's the boop, boop, they're there and they're gone, and they're a long way away. You've got to be sneaky to get up close to a seal and then hit it with a harpoon, and then your whole existence relies on it, because if you haven't got it, your family are going to die of starvation.
Exactly. I was going to ask you actually about animal encounters. So you've mentioned the poo that you're collecting from those animals. What animals have you seen and had encounters with on your trip?
Loads of Arctic foxes, seals every day. I've seen quite a few whales now. I think they increase as we get towards the end of spring and into supposed summer. So I've had a couple of close ones with whales that have come up about 20 meters away from the kayak. You just have to rely that their radar, or whatever you call it, is good enough. They're not going to flip you over.
What kind of whales are they?
A lot of humpbacks, minke whales, fin whales, orca. The ones I've been. Oh, you still there?
Yeah.
Okay, my battery's about to die.
Oh, okay. Well, pretty much. I was only going to ask you before your battery runs out, because I know that it's probably straining it like crazy doing this call. What do you need from people? Because you're doing this amazing trip for scientific benefit. You told us your tent's been destroyed. How are you paying for it? How are you being sponsored? And what do you need from people?
I've had some amazing equipment sponsors. Equipment I've been fine on, but I've had to replace pretty much everything. So tent, sleeping bag, nearly all my tech gear has broken because of salt damage or water damage, because everything gets wet. And food, I do have to buy food, although Greenlanders are super generous. So there's constant stuff I need to buy. Clothing wears out, gets salt damage and breaks all the time. And I've paid for it on credit cards at the moment. I haven't had any cash sponsors at all, but people have been fantastic. If you look on fundraiser.com/Greenland Kayak, it's on my website. You can buy me a £20 food voucher or more, which is greatly appreciated. That'll keep me going. And also, I'm doing it for two charities: MEO, which is a kids' mental health Greenlandic charity, and Client Earth, which uses the law to take governments and big corps to court when they start mucking about with the environment, which I had to think long and hard about who to sponsor, and lawyers weren't the immediate first one, but they do a fantastic job. They've had some great results just using the law against the government who use it to perpetuate their own greed.
We need a lot more of that. I know what they're doing. The Good Law Project and people like that are doing some great work holding these companies and governments to account. It's fantastic. So do you need, is it businesses you'd like to support you? Individuals? Is there a business sponsor that you could get or something like that?
My ideal one would be an adventure brand company.
Okay.
Maybe names like someone like Patagonia or that ilk, have got a fairly good track record on the environment. And I think I tick a lot of boxes on that. Just look at the Instagram. I'm getting some good coverage. Been on Greenland Telly, Dan Saladino on the food program Radio 4 is doing a whole bunch of things about me. Paris Matthews mentioned me the other day and did a couple of interviews. I was on Sydney, Australia radio the other day, so I'm getting a lot of exposure.
Yeah, and the Where Does It Come From podcast as well, obviously.
Absolutely, yeah.
Suffolk home. But so I think if there's any adventure brands out there, or if anyone listening knows someone, and we'll obviously link it in with on our social media as well. It would be great to have somebody having Mike sponsored by somebody. That would be fantastic. And what you're doing is such valuable work for obviously for finding out about microplastics and diet and all of that, but also you're there and you're seeing what it's like on the ground, and that's fantastic for those adventure companies to be able to feature in their own media, I think.
Yeah, I think so. All the equipment sponsors have had some great exposure out of it. There's no tougher environment, and it's that connection with the environment, and the health system and the global food system, and it just all makes sense in a beautiful way. So come aboard and be connected to all that.
Fantastic. It looks beautiful. I think that's a great place to end it. Come aboard, look at the beauty where Mike is standing, and this is the world that we want to keep and have to hand on to our next generations. So thank you so much, Mike, for spending time with us on the Where Does It Come From podcast. And I wish you the best of luck with the rest of your journey, and I'm looking forward to keeping up with everything on Instagram. So thank you so much for being part of this.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.